Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today it's Friday, the 15th of December, 2023. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I have another build scheduled for you today. Now, I had a couple of mini PCs that I wanted to review. However, they're not available to purchase yet, and the company has asked me to wait until their inventory arrives here in the US because they'd hate for me to showcase their mini PC, have you guys see it and want to buy one, and then be saddened and disappointed that they're not in stock yet. So we'll wait till after the holidays to cover that. They should be in stock at that point, but that means I had to do some shifting around and figure out what the heck I was going to do today. And quite frankly, there's a lot of parts I'm waiting on. There's a lot of projects that I'm waiting to finish. But as far as any new projects go, the only thing I have waiting right now are a couple of the B760 motherboard builds. Now, what makes these special is that these are Uncle Carey's 8-year build recommendation. There are years where we don't update the 8-year build because, quite frankly, they're not worth updating. Just because a new chip comes out doesn't mean it's time for a new 8-year build. What an 8-year build is to me, how I define it, is something that brings extraordinary value that will last a minimum of 8 years without needing any upgrade or likely any repair. Now, we can make any computer last 8 years if you want to pour enough money into it, and that's why money is a key here, value. And I find the 13500 chip to be the best value chip on the market, period, end of sentence. Now, prior to that, I was doing a lot of 9700K builds, not so much on the 10th gen. Still was doing 9700K 8-year builds well after the 10th gen was released. When we got to the 11th gen, I was pretty impressed with the 11th gen. Ended up upgrading my own system, and our good friend Madi Yoel, a member of our community, he also got one. He got his first. I was so impressed with it and the value behind it, I decided to upgrade my 9700K. Then the 12th gen came out, and it was a big yawn fest as far as I'm concerned. And then the 13th generation came out, and it was another big yawn fest, except the 13500 I thought was a really good value. So here we are. With the 14th gen already out, we're back to another yawn fest. Maybe the 15th gen will be something exciting. Maybe there'll be some value in there, but we won't know for another 6 months. So this is a good time to make an investment in a new PC if you're looking for a good value 8-year build. And this thing is a rocket ship. Don't get me wrong. This is by no means a budget machine. What this is a rocket ship for the price of an economy car. Like, this is, sure, it's a little bit more money than a baseline budget build. However, it's a lot more computer. It's a lot more performance, a lot more RAM, a lot more storage, a lot faster RAM, a lot faster storage, fully upgradable, fully repairable, and for not much more than a baseline budget PC. Figure a baseline budget PC is around $500. For just a few $100s more, you get so much more, way more than $300 worth, in my opinion, especially compared to if you go to bigger CPUs, more expensive CPUs, and more expensive motherboards. Now, this motherboard does not support Gen 5 M.2. This is a $129 motherboard, and they make this board so that it supports DDR4 or DDR5. If you want to spend more money on essentially the same build, you certainly can spend the extra money to get the DDR5 version of the board, spend extra for the DDR5 version of the RAM. And if you want to have Gen 5 M.2, you can spend more money for a Z790 board, or there are some 760. No, I think you've got to have a 790 chipset. You can spend another $100 on the board. So then you can spend another $100 on the SSD to go Gen 5. So you're already $400 right there. And you're not getting a whole lot for that $400. You know, DDR4 to 5, Gen 4 NVMe to Gen 5 NVMe. It's just, I don't find any value there. It's great if what you're trying to do is say this is the best of what you can buy today within reason, and you're just trying to peek out everything if you can afford that. But for the rest of us who want to basically build something that's so fast and so quiet, you would have a hard time telling the difference between that and the machine I just described that's $400 more. You know, without running benchmarks and testing, just sitting down and using it, you'd be hard pressed to tell them apart. This is it right here. Let me say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. Welcome in all my friends and members and new folks joining us. And let's see what I've been missing here in the chat. Ben Laird contributes £2 and says hello from Scotland. Welcome in, Ben. Paul O'Brien contributed €2. He says, I want a PC for Christmas Day. Daddy. I wish you were in the States so we could get you one. Peter Laycock, our good friend Buster, contributes £10. He's got some somber news here that his brother passed away on the 13th, just a couple days ago, of December in the afternoon. He wants to thank everyone for their prayers and good thoughts. So Peter's brother was struggling with illness for some time, and I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he well outlived what the doctors suspected. Like, didn't the doctors predict that he wasn't going to make it till 2023, and now he's almost to 2024? Or am I remembering that wrong? Either way, he was a fighter, and glad that Peter could be there for him, and they could be together as a family. And you know, sometimes when you got to go, you got to go, and at least when it's time, you'd hope that you'd be surrounded with family. That's my thought. So our thoughts and prayers are out to you, Buster. It's never easy, and we're here for you. We're all here for you. All right, onward and upward. Let's see what else is happening in the chat. Matthew Burden renews membership, now a member for 19 months. He says, good afternoon, Carey and chat. Happy Friday. Right on. Thank you, Matthew. Welcome to 19 months. Davis Parsons, also a member for 19 months. He says, 19 months in one day. Hello to everyone in the chat. Welcome in, Davis. Good to see you, my friend. Dustin Fuller, another member for 19 months. That is so awesome. Thank you, Dustin, for continuing your membership. Planet Cryos with $2 super chat said, it's cool, I'm here. Carry on. Right on. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Craig Casabona with a $20 super chat says, hello all, I just built a computer with the Intel 13500 CPU and a Gigabyte Elite X Wi-Fi 7 motherboard. How do you like it? What kept me away from the Gigabyte board was the price. This board here is $129. What's the Gigabyte Elite X? Is that like 200 bucks? Dwayne Blackwelder with a membership renewal now at 13 months. He says, yes, I made a live broadcast. Hey, welcome in, Dwayne. Colin Hunt with a £2 contribution. Welcome in, Colin. Samuel Kowalski says hello. Les Stevenson says hello. Luke Greenia says hello. And Jonathan, Richard Palmentier, and Ray Cutt, Patrick Rousseau, LRCX, Mortant 1210, and Mats Olaf all saying hello, as does Bradley Morris and David Martinez, Elijah 52 Dickens, Gary Boyd, Doman 2000, Michael Warner, Stealth Mode, Bryce Hosking. We got a full house today. There's Anubis and Diesel Doctor all jumping into the chat saying hello. There's our friend Jesse Kirk. Jesse says, my condolences for the loss of your brother, Peter. At least he's with God, the good Lord now, and no longer suffering. My thoughts and prayers with you and your family. Jesse also contributed a very generous contribution to the channel in honor of Peter's brother. So we're going to do something. We're going to do something about with that. I haven't figured out what yet, but I got ideas. Okay, so to prep this board, this is going to be more or less a repeat of what we've done in the past, but this is the job. Like if you're considering becoming a PC builder professionally or working on computers professionally, there's a lot of repetition in it, and you better hope so, because the only way you're going to get good at anything is you have to keep repeating it. If you can't stand repeating things, you're probably never going to be skilled at anything, unless there's something you naturally are drawn to that you don't realize that you're repeating. And I'm talking about doing the same thing over and over and over and improving it as much as you can each time. So if we're talking about cooking dinner, maybe there's a favorite recipe you like to put together. And maybe over the years of you making this favorite recipe, you've improved on it. That's an example of getting better through doing it over and over. Maybe there's an instrument that you play. Nobody goes and gets an instrument and immediately knows how to play it with any skill. Never happened. You have to pluck around with the guitar or the piano or your wind instrument or your string instrument, whatever it is. You have to mess about with it. You have to practice and put time into it. And the more time you put into it, the more benefit you and only you receive. It's your own sacrifice and it's your own reward. And in much the same way, when we're building with common hardware, the great thing for me is I don't necessarily need to wonder which port is which. I mean, I'm already familiar with the board and the layout and where things are. Most of the time when you're seeing my videos, you're seeing me working on something I've never before seen in my life. And it's my own little game that I play that I try not to look at the manual, feeling that I've been in the industry for so long, things should be pretty obvious. I feel like if things are not obvious to a professional technician, then it's poorly designed. That's my philosophy. So because we built with so many of these B760s from AsRock, they're all pretty much the same, whether we do the DDR5 version or the DDR4. There's not much different between them, a little bit. And we've also done the AsRock Z790 series, both with the live mixer and what's the other one called? The Riptide, the Z790 Riptide, which is the Wi-Fi 7. That's the one we did the 14900K, Gen 5 NVMe, that's the full blown out, very expensive flagship build, if you will. That build, the way we left that off is I was waiting on an NZXT 750 watt power supply to come in. They're on back order, but I was able to get one that was used from Amazon warehouse. That did arrive, and I just haven't had time to put it on the bench. I didn't want to make that a Friday show to put a power supply in. Like, that's too boring. Not for a Friday show. We've got a system on order, some parts rather. Because of Jesse Kirk's kind contribution, it opened the door to a new build that I wasn't planning on doing, but I thought maybe it's time. And that is, I haven't touched an AMD system in some time. I've been pretty disappointed in their driver support and their memory compatibility. However, they're continually getting better. Like I said, if you continually do something over and over, you get better at it. And the longer AMD stays with this Zen chip design, then they continue to improve it. So I thought maybe it's time to see where we're at with the Ryzen 7850X3D and a AsRock live mixer AMD board. It's orange instead of the purple that you saw on the Intel side. And I don't know what case I'm going to use in it yet. And I even got some RAM that has little cooling fans on it, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I thought, I think the idea behind this is to just go over the top. And, the chip itself is $550 for the AMD chip. And then the motherboard was on sale for like $100 off. So it was like $150 in Newegg. Now, I do not have those parts yet, and it will be my first socket AM5 AMD build. I haven't touched anything since AM4. I feel like it's time to reevaluate, see if AMD's made any progress, if I will warm up to them, or if we're still right back to where we were. So I guess that'll be the system we're building in honor of Peter's brother. It was kind of an outrageous, loud, I never met Peter's brother, but not that this is supposed to be in any way like him, but just the idea that we're going to do something completely different, out of the ordinary, and just kind of evaluate and see how they've come along. So that'll be probably during the holidays. I think I should have all the parts, I hope, in time for maybe that week between Christmas and New Year. That might be a fun holiday build, fun end of year build. And don't mind me and my sniffles. Still, from whatever that cold was I had last week, it's still just barely hanging on. I feel great, don't get me wrong, but if I'm sniffling, I apologize. I'm sure that sounds nice and pleasant on this wonderful audio system that I have. But hey, it's life. Life is messy. All right, let's see. Who else do we have in the chat? Channel 0 says hello, and We see Blackwatch joining us. Peter Laycock says his brother has a YouTube channel. It's Stuart Williamson. It's just him cycling around Edinburgh. Look it up and see what he loved best. Getting out on his bike. We should totally see if we can find that. Acronis is in the house. Say hello to Acronis if you guys use Acronis, if you have any questions about Acronis. Acronis, which should be Begowden, he knows all there is to know about Acronis. He is the man when it comes to the ins and outs and all the little intricacies and details of what Acronis can do. I'm more of, I do broad swipes, okay? I use Acronis for basically two things, and that is to back up systems and to image or clone when I'm replacing drives for whatever reason. But Acronis does so much more than that. I don't use it for any of those other things. And if you're curious about that, or if you have any questions about those things, in our chat room today during this live show, you'll see Acronis has joined us, and be sure that you put the @ symbol with your keyboard, shift number 2 with the @ symbol, the word Acronis, that will identify your message to go to Acronis. Then space, follow it with your message, and then that should flag them so that they can see your message. Because the chat can move pretty quick, and if you don't use the @ symbol and direct it to the user may not see your message directed to them. It's true for everybody in the chat room. Acronis says, yes, any questions are very welcome. There we go. All right, so, I was going to look up, bring up YouTube over here. The YouTube? Yeah, bring up the YouTube. Let's do this. And let's look up and Peter said, you're right, Carey. February 2023 is when they said he had till, but he proved them wrong, and he and his wife had 2 holidays until he was housebound. Thought I was remembering that correctly. So he's like, see, you don't have to believe what the doctors tell you. You can prove them wrong, especially when it comes to stuff like that. Blackjack Yak 54 with $1.99 in super chat contribution said, Carey is speaking absolute facts. Great savings. Well, I'm just trying to run a business, and I'm telling you what I do to offer my customers great value while still maintaining some profit margin and not being killed on support issues, which could be resulting of reliability issues. See here. Stuart Williamson. Oh, I think this is him. Let's see. It's not the screen I want to bring up. Bear with me for a second. Let me change that screen over to that screen right there. There we go. Of course, we don't get to see him, though, do we? If he's on the bike, seeing his perspective, his point of view. Still, this could be a cheating way to see Edinburgh, to see Scotland without actually going. It is on my bucket list. Definitely Mara and I want to go to Scotland. But this could give us an idea of what it's like before we get there. Well, it's too bad we don't get to see his brother, though. It's all just apparently his perspective. That's really neat that he did that, though. Right on. Well, there's the channel, Stuart Williamson, right there. 11 subscribers. We got to change that. We got to subscribe. I have to do that with my other channel. Yeah, would you? Wish I could see his face better. I zoom that. It's about as close as I think I can get it. All right, bring it down to 100%. All right, let's go back over to camera 1. Jim KJ3N looks like he already did the B650 live mixer build. That's what I've got coming up here. Oh, look at that. Yeah, Jim in our chat room has already done this build. Which chip did you use on that, Jim? Yep, that's exactly the board we're using. I don't think we'll be using, we definitely won't be using that RAM. Kind of weird, you went with white RAM? It's a red and black board, so I would have thought you'd go red or black on the RAM. Was it on sale? And the cooler's yellow. Were you just going with as many colors as possible, or you just didn't care? See, this is what's happened to me now. I'm starting to color coordinate everything. In the 90s, you didn't do this, right? You just slapped everything together, threw the panels on it. No one looked at it. There was no cable management aside from just tying the cables up out of the way. Where is the parts list here? Go. So when I do my build, everything will be red and black. Red or black, I should say. So he's got an orange case with a red motherboard. Well, the board does have some orange on it, so that kind of works. Just trying to see which chip he's using. Isn't it nice to have somebody criticize your work, put all your hard work into it, and just have somebody go? Isn't that lovely when people do that? So I'd be curious just how that system's working out. What do you think of it? John Paul Bacon said he's loving his AM5 build. Could say it's an extreme sleeper PC. Just look at the case. You'd never suspect what's inside. And what's inside is extreme.
Hi, Cronus.
Well, are you ready to grab the close-up camera so we can get started on this build? Jim is using the Ryzen 7 7700X. Pretty darn close to what we're using, the 7950X3D. So I almost bought the 7700X because it was on sale. I think Newegg had some deal going on with it. But looking at the performance numbers, I just thought it made more sense to do the 7850. If I was going to do this, let's give AMD every opportunity to impress. So I thought, you know, if I go to the best buy, that may not impress me, and then that may not be fair to AMD. So the 7850X3D is what I went with. Now, of course, the 8000 series is going to be out soon, and who knows, that might put to shame this system I'm building. Days or weeks, as soon as it's done, it'll already be not as impressive, but such is the way with technology. All right, you getting the camera? All right, let's go to close-up camera. Let's see, where is that? Oh, it's all the way down. That's why I couldn't find it. You ready?
Ready.
Come on over. She is. All right, so here's the parts we're using, and all the parts are listed in the video notes below the video, in the video description. Now, there are two versions of the board, as I mentioned. There's a DDR5 version, and there's a DDR4 version. And I think when I initially set this up, I copied the wrong set of information over. So if you looked at this earlier, I was pointing to DDR5 RAM. Should have been pointing to DDR4, but
I fixed it.
you have corrected that. Thank
I have
you.
corrected that.
This is a $129 motherboard. Now, bear in mind that they make different versions of this board. Not only do they make a DDR5 version, they also make a micro ATX version. So there's a lot of variations that AsRock makes. So if you're going to order this board, watch the price. That'll be your first guide. And then see if there's a letter M after the numbers. If the letter M appears after these numbers, it's a micro ATX board. It's a smaller motherboard, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe that's what you want, but just know that's what that M means. Last I checked, both the M and the micro ATX and the full ATX version of this board were both $129, which added to my confusion. So slow down when you're ordering. Make sure you're ordering the right thing. Of course, we're going to pair that with our aforementioned Core i5-13500. It's a $250 chip that comes with a cooler. The cooler is quiet, and it's more than adequate. More than adequate to keep this chip cool. You do not need a third-party cooler. We're going to pair that with a Generation 4, a fast Gen 4 1 terabyte drive. Again, we want to keep the price down. We can get these for under $100. It has a built-in heatsink. Now the 980 without the Pro, that's a Gen 3 drive. If you want the speed, you want to get the Pro version. Now you don't have to pay extra for the heatsink. The motherboard has a heatsink you can use. But I think I like the way this looks and where it mounts in the area of the board that we place it that does not come with a heatsink. So if you are going to put an M.2 drive there eventually, that drive is going to need a heatsink if it's Gen 4. So why don't we just take care of that right out of the gate? So that's my thought there. And then finally, this has been my go-to RAM for some time. Team branded memory, whether it's DDR4 or DDR5 or laptop memory. I buy a lot of Team branded memory. I have very good luck with it. It's very reliable. You'll see here I've got like a titanium gray color, and you can often buy this in different colors like red and black, and they have RGB versions and whatnot. We're staying away from the RGB stuff only because we're trying to be price conscious here, and a lot of profit is thrown in on RGB. So that's RGB is a complete unnecessary add-on that's there pretty much just to show off. I'm not interested in showing off. So on some builds, when we're spending a lot of money, like over here, when we're spending big money like this and we want to show it off, you know, for the price of this system, just to give you an idea, I can build 5 of these and still have enough money to fill up my gas tank, go to dinner, and go to dinner again and still have change left over. So let's see what we got in here. Here's how it's packaged. So in this bag, we've got our M.2 screws, our SATA cable, and our owner's manual. And then this is the motherboard, and that's all that's left in the box. The rest is packing material, which we can discard, and we can throw all this stuff in here for now. Except I need 2 of these little screws. 1, 2. Fix that up. We'll build on the box, and that will keep our counter from getting scratched up. So then they've given us more packing material here. AsRock really does go over the top, in my opinion, with how they pack their motherboards. No other motherboard manufacturer is this thorough in the packing, and yet it's not a fragile component. They could probably stick this board in the box without any bag, without any padding, without any cardboard, just in the box, let it slap around in there, and it would likely be just fine. But they gonna do what they gonna do, so I guess it's not hurting anything other than the landfill and the ecology. All right, we're gonna cut off these zip ties. Once again, completely unnecessary to have those there, just a waste of material. It's not like that board is gonna go anywhere once it's in here. It's not like it's got room to move inside the box, so this is really over the top. I guess it wants to survive a drop kick to the front door. And then on the I/O shield, if you look here, we've got some tape. It's to be. So that's our board. Now, I've taken 2 of the M.2 screws out, and I'm going to place them into the standoffs that they go into so that when the owner of this computer wants to add an M.2, they won't have to go around looking for these teeny tiny little screws. They'll be exactly where they would expect them to be. I do wish that AsRock just had these installed right out of the box. Again, we're adding more material to the landfill here just for one little tiny screw. And each little tiny screw has its own bag. So it's very wasteful. And, you know, imagine if they didn't do that, how much cheaper they could get this board. It's already a great price. So right here, I'm going to put one of these little M.2 screws in this socket, which is for a Wi-Fi card to go. I'm going to take the other M.2 and I'm going to put it in this middle socket. And then this socket right here is the one we're going to use, the one that says Hyper M.2. That's the one we're going to use for our 980 Pro NVMe drive. If we put it in this socket, this runs at half speed. So again, if you want all your sockets to run at full speed, you're going to have to buy a more expensive motherboard. But if it's not something you're going to use anyway, why pay for something you're never going to use? So just bear that in mind. Just because it doesn't have something doesn't mean it's something you need. And if it is something you need, stop trying to go cheap with it. Because if you're demanding all of these extras, you've got to expect that those extras are going to raise the price. So for $129, you know, all of our USBs are 5 gig except for the built-in one right here. I think that's a 10. And all the USB ports, well, these two are USB ports. All our NVMe ports are Gen 4, and then this one is cut in half. So you have 3. More expensive boards may have 4 or 5 M.2 slots. We don't have built-in Wi-Fi on this. You can add it. If you want to spend more money, you can get a board with built-in Wi-Fi. So again, have realistic expectations with what you're spending. And I would advise you not to buy hardware that you don't need. You're spending money for something you're never going to use. How does that make any sense? Also, if you were to buy this because it meets your needs today, but then later on you decide you want to add more M.2s than you have slots for, you can buy M.2 add-on cards that go into the slots. So it's not like you wasted all your money and you have to start over again. On the other hand, if your needs don't change, then you just save money by not having to buy all that extra stuff you're not using. All right, so here's our 980 Pro. And I guess I'm going to need one more M.2 screw out of here to secure that. This is a fast little drive for $100. It's hard to believe how cheap these have become. And like I say, with the built-in heatsink, it just looks like it belongs on this motherboard. It's just very attractive right there. Gel says, greetings from Belgium. Welcome in. And we'll secure the drive down. So that installs our 1 terabyte drive. Remember, there's nothing on this. This is not formatted or partitioned. So we'll have to put Windows on that. Of course, if you're going to build your own system, you need to provide your own operating system. Luckily for us, we have our friends over at VIP CDK deals, where we can buy Windows 10 Pro all day long for $16.16 lifetime activation. Totally 100% legitimate. They've been around for nearly 2 decades. And they have great customer service, great quality product. Microsoft would like to charge you $200. If you want to pay $200 instead of $16, I mean, that's your money. That's a heck of a price difference for the exact same product. All right, now, with our drive here, I didn't put it here because this is the heatsink that covers up the other drive if we wanted to add another one. Because I like the way this looks and because I'm afraid the customer might try to add a fast drive here without a heatsink, I'm trying to avoid a support call by using this one first. Then if the customer wants to add a drive, they can go here next. We shouldn't have any calls about heat issues. See how I think ahead like that? It's going to run exactly the same in either slot, so why not get the one with the heatsink? And it looks good. Nick Caffrey contributes €15. He says, now that I've started on my new build, I thank Dr. Carey for all the things I've learned. A major build problem was overcome. What was the major build problem? Marine Raptor wants to know, is it safe to test your build on a box like that before you install in a PC case? Yes, absolutely. This is a non-conductive, it's cardboard, so it doesn't conduct electricity. You wouldn't want to do this on foil or a metal table. That would be a big no-no. But on cardboard, you're perfectly fine. Now, normally I don't even recommend you test before you install. The reason you see me build outside like this is for the purpose of making a video. Under normal circumstances, I would probably go ahead and mount the board into the case first. In fact, if you go back about 10 years and look at my earlier builds here on YouTube, that's how I did it. But it was very difficult to show the audience at home what I was doing. But what I was doing was building the way I would build in a factory, which is we put the board into the case and then attach everything to the board once it's in the case. That's all well and good for the builder, right? You can see everything you need to see as the builder. But for somebody that's a spectator, there's not much to see there. So I build out in the open like this so you guys can see. I don't recommend you do this. I would say build it in the case. The only time I would recommend building outside of the case is if you're using parts that you're not quite sure of, like they came from a questionable source. You got something from eBay, or something was a return from Amazon that you ordered. Things like that, where you're afraid you might have to take it back out. For the most part, we very rarely ever get any dead on arrival parts. So the likelihood of having to take the machine back out of the case is highly unlikely. So I want to re-emphasize the reason I build outside of the case is so that you can get a view of what I'm doing and the camera can show you all of the angles and lighting that's necessary for you to see me put the parts in. Once I'm in the case, you can forget it. I mean, you're just going to see my elbows and a little bit of the motherboard here and there because my body is going to be blocking the view. So just because you see me build like this doesn't mean that's the way you should be building. If you want to build this way, you can, but I don't recommend it because by having it open like this, if you're a first-time builder, it's very easy for you to spill something on it or to scratch the surface of the board with something if you're not careful. That's less likely going to happen if the board's mounted into the case. But, you're a grown adult, you pick which way you want to do it. Nick Caffrey says the Steel Legend motherboard had a BIOS that was not compatible with the 14700, so I had to downgrade the processor to a 13700. Did you downgrade the processor to update the BIOS and then use the 14700? Or you permanently just downgraded to a 13700? Okay, so let's see. CPU, I guess I can do next. Nick Caffrey said he did a permanent downgrade. I would imagine that there must have been a BIOS update. If not, maybe there is now. That would make that system be compatible with the 14700. Probably only a 10% performance difference between the two chips. Okay. Wagon Load said, I'd love to see a build using an Intel NUC being built into an industrial level robot. I'd love to see a build made out of nothing but gold, coins, and diamonds. As soon as I can find somebody that wants to pay for that, we'll get right on it. All right, so here is our sink. And our chip. Right there. Nick Caffrey says there was a BIOS update, but how could I install it if the display wouldn't work? You put the older chip in, then you do the BIOS update, and then you take the old chip out and put the new chip in. That's how you do it. Okay, so let's get our CPU installed here. Ron Makura with a £2 contribution. Thank you, Ron. Open up our CPU socket here, which is very delicate. And we align that so that the notches align here. There's little notches up at the top and at the bottom if you look very carefully. And the writing is always going to face, at least on a micro ATX and ATX motherboard, the writing will face the same as the writing on the rest of the board, same direction. Then we need to remove this plastic cover now. They used to pop off on their own. Since the new socket design, we're going to hold on to this. This has to be covering this if there's no chip in it. Why would there be no chip in it? If you were sending it back for warranty. If you send it back for warranty with the chip in there, you likely will not get your chip back. And if you send it back without this cover on, without a chip, and those pins are exposed, your warranty is null and void and will not be covered under warranty. So hopefully you'll never need this, but this is definitely something you want to put away and know where it is in case you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and close the retention lever down here and lock that CPU in place. And we'll take this little plastic cover. We're going to throw it in the otherwise empty motherboard box. And hopefully we'll never need it. Jason Willis, now a member for 3 months. Right on. Thank you, Jason. Don't like these little tags that Intel's putting on. It just makes the cabling look terrible. Makes it harder to cable manage with that little tag sticking out. So this is our stock Intel heatsink. And as you can see, it comes with thermal compound pre-applied. All we have to do is set it down. We want the power cable to go out. Remember, this heatsink can go on any of the directions here, any 90 degrees. But we don't want to route the cable around to the plug. We want to keep the cable running as straight a distance as possible directly to the connector. And that's going to keep our cable management easier and reduce the odds of the cable getting in and blocking the fan anytime the system is shipped or moved. So once we make sure we're aligned here, we just push down on one of these towers and do the opposite corner. And then again, an opposite corner. Then we can turn the board over and we can inspect to see if all the little alligator mouth clips here are coming all the way through, and to verify that they're coming out at the same level. If one is recessed, that it's not all the way in and your cooling isn't going to be effective. With that, we can now plug the CPU fan right here where it says CPU fan 1, and this one says CPU fan 2. We're going to plug into fan 1 right there. See, there's 2 grooves in this little notch. That ensures that we can only plug it in one way and on the right set of pins only. Then I can grab my nylon zip ties here, and we can tie up this excess cable while the system is out like this. I suppose if there's one advantage to having the system out, it's just wire tying this cable right here. This is way easier to do when the motherboard's out of the case, although some cases are so easy to work within that this is no big deal. But it depends on the case you are using. But this may be something you want to do before you put the motherboard in. But I'm going to leave that judgment call up to you, because I don't know what case you bought. And you'll notice I fold the cable in on itself. I'm not just grabbing it and slamming it together. I'm actually folding it in on itself so it's not twisted. It's not flipped over. It's actually just completely flat, and it rests on another completely flat side, which rests on another completely flat side. So there's 1, 2, 3 flat sides. And that makes it take up less room, because otherwise, if we just grab it and push it together, it's a bulkier and less aesthetically pleasing cable management job. And it's not like it takes that much more effort to pay attention to that little detail. If you're going to do it, why not do it right? Especially when the difference in doing it right and doing it wrong is seconds. Right? Seconds more time to just pay attention to that. Now we can put our RAM in. This side doesn't open, but this side does. And this tells us on the board if we're going to use only 2 modules to use this socket and the last socket right here towards the edge of the board. It says so right there. Maybe difficult to see, and it's also in the manual. Not that it won't work if you install it a different way, but this is the recommended way. Once again, if you're going to do it, why not do it right? It takes pretty much the same amount of time to push these into the right sockets as it does to push them into the wrong ones. It maybe just takes a few extra seconds to verify you're in the right sockets. So why not take those few extra seconds? If this is a system you're going to be using for the next 8 years, take your time and build it right. The more precise you are in your building process, the better the payoff's going to be with longevity and not having to deal with glitches and things like that. So there's 1 memory modules right there. Pop that bad boy in. And remember, these are 3200 speed, 32 gigs each. This is a total of 64 gigs of RAM. Remember, I told you this thing's a little rocket ship. Oh, I got the RAM in backwards. Can't put it in backwards. Will not go in. Don't force anything. The minute I reach salt resistance, The minute I felt that, I didn't go any further because I don't want to break anything. See, that's how easy that is. And then I close those retention levers. And yeah, that is it for the build. Now we get to put power to it, a power switch, and hook it up, turn it on. We're probably going to need a BIOS update. And we can verify that what we've done is going to work. Unfortunately, I used my test power supply, which I just now realized the test power supply is on the 14900K. So now I need to find another test power supply. We can give you a break. Go back over to camera 1. Thank you, camera girl.
You're welcome.
There you go. All right. Let me see what I have for a power supply. I've got plenty of power supplies. It's just that they're all brand new in a box. That means when I'm done with this other one, I'm going to have 2 test power supplies. Story of my life. Let's see what we have here to use. EVGA 750. Big for this. 650. Ah. I wasn't prepared for this. Not prepared at all. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's play musical chairs and let's grab the returned C750 from NZXT that I purchased. Right? That's kismet in the sense that this is the power supply. It's supposed to go in the 14900K. The power supply I wanted to use today is currently in the 14900K. So then the 14900K is going to sacrifice its power supply for our test today. And besides, we can test this power supply and make sure it's okay. Given that it's an Amazon return, most of the time I don't have any issues, but sometimes I do. And I want to make sure everything's in here. Sometimes you don't get all the cables or it's incomplete in other ways. So let's take a look. Oh, this looks like new. Wow. Holy cow. Okay, well, clearly somebody had the screws opened. But a lot of times these little bags and things, they'll be all wrinkled and, you know, like somebody crumpled them up. It's like you can tell if a piece of paper was in somebody else's possession if they crumpled it up versus if the piece of paper is crinkle, crease-free. This is a good sign. This looks like maybe nobody even used this. Now to see if the cables are still in plastic bags or if they've been removed. Okay, the cables have been removed from the plastic bags, but they all contain the zip ties, which a lot of times people don't put stuff back when they send stuff, when they return stuff. A lot of times they don't put it all back the way it should be. Whoever did this did a really nice job of putting things back. Very respectful. Appreciate that as the next owner. And then that's our CPU power. And that's all I'm going to need. Yeah, it looks like we've got all our cables. I mean, this thing's filled to the brim with cables. Might as well leave that out. And then this will go in the recycle bin because it looks like this is probably going to be just fine. It looks like brand new. Heads up. Oh, there goes a bag of chips. Crunch. Well, the chips are broken. It's hard to explain. Okay. That side goes to the motherboard. This side goes to the power supply. like so. And our CPU power, we'll just use one of these, even though we've got room for two of them on this board, one 8-pin and one 4-pin. We'll just use the 8-pin. So we're not overclocking or doing anything crazy. It's not my intention to keep the 750 on this because it's a $120 power supply. We could easily use a $60 power supply on a build like this, you know, unless you're adding a GPU. If you're adding a GPU, then all bets are off. But then so much for your budget build. I should rephrase, so much for your best bang for the buck build, because the minute you throw a GPU in it, there's no GPU on the market that I think is a good value. They're all, in my opinion, all the new ones are way overpriced for what you're getting. In my day, we could buy that GPU for a nickel. Okay, there's our power switch. I just went ahead and hooked up a little LED on there too. And then we need to hook up right up in the front here, HDMI to our capture card right here. We're going to leave the Ethernet out. We don't want to install that yet. I need a power cable to go into the power supply, so we'll use this one right here. That'll go here. And I need a keyboard and a mouse. And that should be it. We can test fire this bad boy. Here's my keyboard and mouse. Of course, I need to come around here to plug our little Wi-Fi keyboard wireless dongle that controls access to the keyboard and mouse with that one dongle, which is really convenient. And this flash drive should have the latest BIOS on here for this board. So we'll pop that in. Any of the USB ports will do. Okay, are we ready for our test fire? If we did everything correctly, it should boot. So, gotta turn the power supply. There it goes. Now let me switch over to the HDMI input. And hopefully we're going to get a power on self-test or post screen here. Give it just a moment as we turn it on for the first time. It has to train the CPU and RAM, figure out what the heck we put in there. It should automatically take us into the BIOS once it realizes it has nothing to boot from. Now it does show we're running version 4.01 here at the upper left of our BIOS version. I can click Instant Flash, click yes to this, and update. It automatically finds the flash file on that USB drive. It says the system's going to power down and automatically reboot to do this process. I recommend you keep all hands off during this process. Leave the system alone. The BIOS update is a very critical update that needs to run uninterrupted. If you interrupt it, you could brick your motherboard, meaning that the board is no longer functional and will need to go back to the manufacturer for repair. So all you have to do is leave it alone. I recommend to go outside and check the mail, return a phone call, do something to occupy your mind for the next few minutes. This takes anywhere from 3 minutes to anywhere from usually probably 3 to 6 minutes in most cases. Sometimes it can take a little longer. John Kennedy says, what's the cost for this? Well, it depends on what case you decide to use, what power supply you decide to use. We're looking at $129 for the board, $250 for the CPU and cooler, $90 for the SSD, and forget how much the RAM was. Did you see how much the RAM was in my Amazon history? We'll tell you here in a second. For the 3200 speed DDR4 64 gig, 2 sticks of 32 TEAMGROUP memory. I think it was 170. Does it sound right? Of course, we'll put Windows 11 Pro on here, but we'll buy a Windows 10 Pro key. It was only $124. So 125 for the RAM for 64 gigs. Wow, that's a good deal. $124.99 for the RAM, $129.99 for the motherboard, $247.99 for the CPU and cooler. And what I pay for the Samsung 980 Pro with a heatsink, I think that was $89, $79. In any event, it's a budget build in the sense that you're going to get an 8-year build. It was $90. Okay. So you're looking at about $100 a year. So right around, most of the time when I do the 8-year builds, if you want to go back as many years as you want to go back since I started doing the 8-year builds, they generally cost $100 per year. So an $800 computer should get you about 8 years. Now, if you're spending $1,000, $1,500, that doesn't mean you're getting more years. You're still likely, 8 years is about the peak. And anything above and beyond that, you're still kind of pressing your luck with 8 years, going beyond 8 years on any system. And usually a GPU is quick to throw your budget off, right? So without a GPU, just using built-in video, we can do this with case, power supply, motherboard, RAM, storage, CPU cooler, and operating system for under $800. I think it might be even closer to $700 on this particular build. Bajin Guy says $600. Well, I think we're not calculating sales tax. So I live in a state that has a nearly 10% sales tax added on. So even if it were $600, it's another $60 in sales tax. It's going to get us close to $700. Either way, it's a really great deal. Anubis wants to know, can I list my build for feedback and or criticism? Yeah, of course, please do. You shouldn't see much in the way of criticism here. We have a very friendly and supportive community here. So if there's suggestions for improvement, please don't take that as criticism. And I only tease Jim about the color of everything on his build because I know Jim. I wouldn't do that to a complete stranger. Nick said, prices are so much lower in the US, my build topped out at under 2,000 euro. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how the euro compares to the dollar right now, but there is some of that going on. And then, of course, there are some import tariffs your government may place on some stuff being sold there. So, okay, now we're on BIOS version 6.08. So clearly that has finished. So I'm going to go ahead and take the flash drive out. I still have one more of these systems to build. So I'm not done with this flash drive until I build the final system and use it one more time. And I'm going to grab my Windows 11 installation media, and we're going to plug that in, and we'll reboot and start the install. Now, I don't recommend that you turn on XMP and go through all these enhancements until you know what you've built is stable. But because I've already built 3 of these and I already know that this configuration is stable, I can confidently, under this circumstance, optimize this right now. Although it's never a good idea, because if it starts to crash, we won't really know if my turning on the optimizations is causing the crash. I only know that on other systems with the same hardware, it did not cause a crash. So in theory, we should be okay to turn that on. So what I'll do is, since we have a new BIOS, I'm going to go to the advanced mode here, which is F6. We're going to go to overclock tweaker, and under DRAM configuration, we will turn on XMP 2.0 profile. Oh, no, first I want to go to exit. I want to load the UEFI defaults. That's what I want to do first. So load UEFI defaults, then OC tweaker, because that just reset it back to default. Then back to DRAM config, then back to XMP 2.0 profile, then over to exit, save changes and exit right there. Okay, so now when it reboots, it should boot automatically from my USB flash drive that has Windows 11 installation media on it. You can download and create your own Windows 10 or Windows 11 installation media directly from Microsoft. It'll install in a trial mode without a product key. That's how I recommend you install it. That's how Microsoft wants you to install it. You can download your image directly from Microsoft so you know you're not getting anything sketchy or potentially virus infected. If you type in download Windows 10 or download Windows 11 into Google, specifically Google, the very first link you should see, or one of the first 3 links, should be to Microsoft.com for their media creation tool. And that will walk you through the entire process of downloading and making your own installation media for Windows 10 or 11. Then when you've made it, you can boot from it like I'm doing now. And none of this is costing you anything. Hit next and install now. And when it asks for a product key, I'm going to tell it I don't have a product key. I do that right here. This is put in by Microsoft so that you can have a trial and test the software out before buying it. This will run indefinitely in trial mode, but you will get a watermark that's annoying. So I click I don't have a product key during my initial install. I choose Windows 11 Pro. I hit next. The reason I've got to pick the operating system that I'm installing is because without the product key, it doesn't know. The product key determines that. So if whatever I've selected, if I selected Windows 11 Home or Windows 11 Pro, I need to make sure I buy the right product key or it will not activate. If I purchase a product key for Windows 11 Home and try to use it on Windows 11 Pro, that will not work. I'm going to choose custom install. It sees our brand new 1 terabyte Samsung 980 Pro, hit next. And now it's going to partition, format, and copy over all the files needed to install Windows 11 Pro. Now, if everything goes well, we don't have any crashes and everything's happy, then after downloading all the drivers and updates, if everything's still happy, the last step would be to buy the product key and put it in. The reason you don't want to do that right out of the gate is the product key is married to the motherboard indefinitely. So if you have a bad motherboard and you have to send it back, you've just lost your copy of Windows 11. That license just went with the motherboard. So don't be too anxious in activating and optimizing things until you know step by step that you've made it. It's like you want to celebrate winning the race when you haven't finished the race yet. So make sure that you get there first and you are in fact the winner, then open the champagne and celebrate. Doing that beforehand, it's, you know, the tortoise versus the hare is a classic tale. If you think that that fable doesn't affect you, then have at it. However, when you build as many systems as I do, I can assure you that having to go back and undo work is bad enough, but then to lose your license and have to buy another one, it just adds insult to injury. All you have to do is be patient. It's not like having that activation there earlier is any benefit to you whatsoever. But you do you. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying. No benefit to turning XMP on that early. No benefit to putting your activation code in until after you've established everything is stable and running. Then, and only then, as a final step, do you put your activations on. Now, once you've got everything activated and running well, the next thing you should do is use a program like Acronis and make a backup image of your system. Now, I'm saying after you've got all your software installed, your wallpaper, your activation, everything is the way you like it. It's all finally done. Like you are done with your new build, then the next and final step is make a backup image. And the reason you do that is if you should have an unexpected failure or loss for any reason whatsoever, could be the system fries due to a power spike, or maybe you get robbed, or maybe there's a fire, maybe there's a flood. There's all kinds of reasons. Maybe you accidentally clicked on a link and it infected your machine. All you have to do is load your Acronis rescue disk and restore your Acronis image, and the system will literally go back in time to the exact condition it was in. Every single file, every activation, every cookie, every bit of temporary files all gets put back just as though you got in a DeLorean and you picked 88 miles an hour and went back to the day you made that backup. It goes back in time. It's incredible. And it does it quick, much faster than a reinstall. It happens in about 10 minutes. All right, Anubis says he's got an AsRock PG Riptide Wi-Fi motherboard with an i5-13600KF using the AsRock Phantom Gaming Arc A770 motherboard GPU. He's got an MSI Mag power supply. Looks like an 850 watt power supply. Team T-Force Vulcan, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 sticks at 16 gigs at DDR4 6000, and the MSI SSD Spadium 2 terabyte NVMe drive. Well, that sounds like a great build. I can't imagine. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. Now, for me personally, I would not have got a processor with the letter F on the end, even though you're using a discrete graphics card. When it comes to diagnosing, it's best to have an onboard graphics card just as a diagnostic tool. But, I mean, people buy them. I don't know why. I don't think there's much savings there. $30 maybe to get the F, which is a CPU without the graphics card built in. But I think it's worth the extra $30 to have that spare GPU that you can fall back on. And just given the reliability ratings, GPUs aren't that great. But other than that, I really don't have any suggestions. Everything looks great. Okay, United States, yes. US, yes. Skip other keyboard layout languages. I'm going to choose I don't have internet down here. Again, continue with limited setup. That way I can create a local user account instead of having to create a Microsoft user account. I'll just put in the name user with the password blank, and then we leave everything but location turned off. Everything is off but location, and then hit accept. Now, by leaving the location setting on, I'm going to get my date and time set automatically, along with any daylight saving time adjustments, or even just lost minutes and seconds that occur over time with any clock. It'll constantly synchronize it with the clock online on the internet, and then I don't have to deal with that. It's one less issue, one less potential issue. Roystar Man says to Acronis, I used your software to transfer a Windows 10 AMD build to an Intel build using Universal Restore, and it worked wonderfully. Ah, yes, Universal Restore. John Struther says, hello, Carey and chat. Hey, John, welcome in. Sherry McFarland said, Carey, the GPU in my new laptop died. It's on the way to HP in California to be repaired under warranty. I'll never recommend an HP to anyone. Where have I heard this before? Now, I'm sorry to hear that, though. John Paul Bacon said he's got 2 Seasonic power supplies he's had since 2016. Nice. Okay, so there's our install finally done. With that, I can step around, take my flash drive out, because we're now done installing Windows 11. And now I can plug the internet in for the very first time. And we can go grab drivers and updates, which of course can take a while. And we're waiting for that little globe down there to turn to a little monitor, which it just did. Do you want a one-step install of latest driver? Yes, I do. AsRock has done this correctly. Okay on that, hit confirm. or continue. And what it's going to show us are drivers only. No adware, no trialware, no antivirus nonsense. This is just straight up business. And in just a minute, the screen will pop up here as it analyzes what our system is and what drivers are missing or need to be updated. And everything's already checked, and all we have to do is hit update and yes. And now in the background, while it's doing that, we can also at the same time do our regular Windows updates. Now granted, this internet connection is pretty slow here, so this is going to make it take even longer, but at least it's something I can set out of sight, out of mind, and let it run in the background, and it'll be finished when it's finished. I always turn this feature on, and then I go to advanced options, and I turn on this feature right here, this one right here, this one right here. Then here we've got 0 optionals. Let's go back. So we're downloading all these Windows updates here and all these driver updates there. So with all that happening, we can now switch back over to camera 1. And since now at this point, this is just a waiting game, I can answer your questions or talk about what's on your mind. Because once that's done, we're going to go to Windows Update again and repeat that until there are no more Windows updates. This is Windows 11 23H2, in case you were wondering. And once the updates are all installed and all the drivers are installed, the final step is to put the motherboard into the case with a power supply and then cable manage it. And I've been really liking NZXT cases. And so likely it's going to go to an H7 or an H5 NZXT case. John Williams says, hey, Carey, good afternoon. I know I'm late. It looks like another great build and the master Carey at the helm. Great to see everyone. Had to change the oil on my winter beater here in Madison. And Joe says, greetings from Traverse City, Michigan. Right on, Joe, from my own home state there. Traverse City is a beautiful, beautiful place. Boris says, hello, Carey in chat. Welcome in, Boris. John Kennedy says $700 for this build is fantastic. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, I don't know how much I can emphasize without sounding like some kind of snake oil salesman, because it sounds too good to be true. You're getting a rocket ship of a computer that runs silently, is fully upgradable, fully repairable, and will likely run for at least 8 years without any problems at all. Likely. Super fast input-output. Now, granted, we could easily increase the speed, increase the price of this by going to a more expensive CPU, which this motherboard will handle. Any 12th, 13th, or 14th gen Intel CPU will fit and work in this. I wouldn't. I would go to a more expensive motherboard if I was going to go to a more expensive CPU, but that's just me. We could go to a Gen 5 NVMe if we switch the motherboard out. We could get a motherboard that has built-in Wi-Fi, built-in Wi-Fi 7 at that. But instead of $129 for the board, we're going to pay $250 for the board. Instead of paying $90 for a 1 terabyte storage, we pay $270 for, let's say, 2 terabytes of Gen 5. It's ridiculously expensive, in my opinion. For speed, you likely aren't even going to notice other than benchmarking. There are people that do have some justifiable needs for those kind of performance numbers and can see the difference, but most of you aren't those people. Most people aren't those people. And if you are one of those people, then you shouldn't be complaining about price, right? Because if you need all of that, then you know that comes with a price. If you don't need all of that and you're just complaining about the price, it's because you don't need it. It's sort of like, I'd like a Rolls Royce, but they're just so darn expensive. But if I needed a Rolls Royce, I'd probably be able to afford it. It kind of goes hand in hand, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right, let me grab a cold Gatorade. And so, yeah, based on what you could buy at the store for this price, for around $700, You wouldn't find anything close to this in performance, upgradability, repairability, reliability. And of course, when you build it yourself, you know it's built right. You never know with the stuff that's all pre-built. People working on an assembly line, they just kind of robots, passion or pride usually. They just, this guy puts hard drives in, or this guy puts power supplies in, and it's brainless work. When you're doing it, it's a very, very strong sense of pride in what you're doing, and what a great sense of accomplishment when you're done. Now, it's not my fault. After you've spent the $700, followed my advice, and you did everything the way I said you should, and everything turns out exactly the way I said it will, you're probably going to want to build another one because it's so enjoyable. That's not my fault if you end up building computers for all your friends and family. Because that's what happens next. It's so much fun. You're like, who can I build a computer for? Who do I know that would benefit from it? Yeah. That's how it all begins. Dick Poverman says, here in New Jersey with tax and shipping from Amazon, it would be $647.47. So I don't know what case and power supply you're using. Mark Leibowitz said, I blame you every time that happens, Carey. Every time you have to feel the desire to build another computer. Yeah, I'll take that blame. Guilty as charged. And then Mark Leibowitz continues, I should say, I blame you all the way to the bank. It's a great way to make a living. I got to tell you, I enjoy this far better than working for the man. John Kennedy said, Carey built a computer for me about 10 years ago. I still use it to surf the web. That's what I'm talking about. You bought two for me, didn't you, John? Then I think he started building them himself. He's like, I don't need Carey to do this. A monkey could do this. Learned my secret. I hire monkeys. What's the AMD 8-year build comparable parts list for the $700 price? I don't know because I don't build AMD systems. I've not been too happy with the reliability. One of the reasons I'm able to get to this configuration is based on the sheer number of systems I've been building that are Intel based, right? Different generations, different manufacturers of motherboards and RAM and storage. And because I'm in this unique position where I build so many systems at scale, there tends to be, over time, a particular set of parts that stands out to me. I don't just look online and start pointing the mouse at stuff and basing it on the information online and saying, well, this should be, and I see people do that on YouTube and it drives me crazy. Here's a good $700 build. And then they just go online and they point at it. They don't actually build it and they don't really know what they're talking about. So because I don't know what I'm talking about with AMD, I don't have any recommendation of a $700 AMD build. I'm not even sure I recommend AMD at any price. At least that's how it's been. I'm giving AMD a second chance. Most people that I have found online that are buying AMDs don't keep them more than 3 years. They're always replacing them and they're always upgrading them. In the Intel side of things, in my experience, and again, this is just my observation, so take with it how you will, people tend to keep their Intel-based systems for much longer. Now, I don't know why this is. If AMD is just more enthusiast-based, and enthusiasts always want the latest and greatest, more so than the regular base of computer user that just wants to get the most amount of time and value out of their machine. They're not eager to replace it. They only replace it when they have to. Versus AMD users that want to replace it because, hey, there's been new chips out. They want to upgrade. So in my experience, if you look at my channel and just look at the PC repairs I've done, look how disproportionate the AMD-based repairs are to the Intel ones. Again, could be coincidence, could just be that's the way the chips are falling. I don't know, but I get more AMD chips in for repair, more AMD-based systems. It has nothing to do with the AMD chip. It has everything to do with the motherboard, the BIOS, the support structure surrounding it. On top of that, we've had issues where AMDs aren't running at the speeds they've been advertised to run. We've had issues with memory compatibility not working correctly. And again, not necessarily AMD's fault, but the motherboard manufacturer's fault. As a result, it ends up costing me money in support, makes me look bad. I'm trying AMD again because it's been about a year since the last time I built one, and I want to see how they've evolved, if they've evolved, and if they're more now on par with Intel in that reliability and compatibility part of the chip. So it's all going to start with this one build. Now, if this build doesn't go well, and if I'm not happy with it, there won't be another one, not for a long time. There has to be multiple builds in order for me to determine what other good combination of parts to make up an 8-year build. But again, I just don't see people wanting an 8-year build based on AMD. Most AMD users are replacing that chip within 3 years, or the whole system. Joe says, this is the last HP laptop I'm ever going to buy, a 470 G7. It has more problems than I want to deal with. I personally buy Dell laptops, and the last laptop I bought is a Samsung Galaxy Book, but I don't really like the shape of the screen and the size of the touchpad, so it's mostly collecting dust. I'm still using my Dell XPS 9570, I think it is. It's an 8th generation Intel, and that thing just... Now, granted, I have 32 or 60, I think I have 64 gigs of RAM and a 4 terabyte NVMe drive in it. It's no slouch. And to this day, I use it every single day. That's my main computer. Very happy with it. In fact, I think I bought that refurbished. Techno wants to know, with AMD reliability, does that include minis for mini PCs like the UM790 Pro? Because I was thinking of purchasing one. No, the chips that are soldered onto the motherboard that are designed for portable use like laptops, that's a completely different chip design. And I've not seen any issues with those, apart from we had a video, if you recall, I think it was the GTR7 from B-Link, wouldn't synchronize with the video. And I think it's because they released it before the drivers were ready. And if I plugged it into a regular computer monitor, it works. But on my television that I use as a monitor, I could not get a signal out of it. And I couldn't get a signal even in my my $900 capture card. Couldn't interpret a signal. Now, I never had that problem with Intel. Now, since driver updates came out, that problem's been resolved. So that was just kind of a consequence of being first. But in my opinion, it shouldn't have been released until those driver updates came out. But when we're talking about the Intel chips and the AMD chips that are built on the mobile platform, those are a different series of chips. They're built differently. They use lower power. They're not socketable chips. They're soldered onto the board. And the boards, you don't get your choice of which CPU to use. That means the boards are designed specifically for using that particular CPU and only that CPU. So the opportunity for compatibility and things to go wrong is far reduced when it's designed from the get-go to run with that particular CPU. Therefore, problems are far less likely because far less problems can be introduced, far less variables exist where we got to worry about compatibility. So I think you're perfectly fine in dealing with any of the mini PCs. And unless the mini PCs are using desktop versions of the chip. Now, I'm not aware of any that do, except like these HP minis here. They use a desktop version of the chip, but they're also kind of large. They're quite expensive, and they are upgradable. Why you would, but it makes far more sense when you can have parts soldered onto the board. If you want reliability, that's what you want. People often turn their nose up if they see that RAM is soldered on to their, let's say, their laptop. My $3,000 Galaxy Book 3 has the RAM soldered in, 32 gigs soldered down. You cannot upgrade it. You cannot replace it. People go, that's terrible. I disagree. There shouldn't be any reason I need to upgrade more than 32 gigs of RAM. Not anytime soon. If I ever need to do that, it's probably time for a new laptop anyway. By soldering the RAM directly onto the board, the data doesn't travel as far, and therefore the RAM can operate faster. Also, the opportunity for errors and damage significantly goes away, goes down, because the RAM is a part of the circuit board now, instead of being in a socket. Sockets introduce all kinds of problems from chip crawl and bent pins and all this other stuff that can occur. Not to mention the portability of the RAM being removable. It introduces it to environments in which it can be damaged. By soldering it down, you get RAM that's faster and more reliable. So the idea is, if you're going to buy a system that has the RAM soldered down, instead of seeing that as a negative thing, see that as a positive thing. And just be sure you spend a little extra to get the most amount of RAM you can if you intend on keeping the system a long time. Don't go for the cheapest price. Just say, let's get it right. Let's buy it once, get it right as when we buy it the first time, and then there's no reason to open it and upgrade it. So on these mini PCs, some of them have RAM soldered down. Most of them don't. About the only thing you can upgrade on them is the RAM and the storage. So, and again, depending on the mini PC, you could be limited in the storage to SATA only, or Gen 3 NVMe, or even a 2242 length. Some of these don't even take a full 2280 M.2 drive, which I think sucks. So there's pros and cons all the way around. Nothing is perfect. And it's just a question of what fits your expectation and your values for the amount of money you want to spend. And, the best I can do is provide you the information, but I don't make the decision for you. It's up to you to decide what's important to you and what sacrifices you're willing to make, including the sacrifice of the wallet, how much you're willing to spend. Techno says, thank you, Carey. Great info as always. Well, thanks for asking the question. The whole point of YouTube here is that we're interactive, that we can talk to each other. If you're just passively watching as a spectator, you might as well watch TV. The whole benefit of joining me on the live video is to be able to talk to me, be able to interact not only with me, but with the rest of the audience too. We have an amazing community here. We'd love you to be a part of it. What are you doing?
I'm working on your stuff.
I hear clomp, clomp, clomp. Those are some loud shoes.
Well, I gotta put these shoes on in order to camera work.
Oh, so you could be taller?
Yeah.
All right, let's see how we're doing on our updates. I haven't checked on them in a while. Oh, the computer went to sleep on me. Let me wiggle the mouse and wake it up. Wakey, wakey. There we go. Installation has been successfully completed. Good. And that is almost done as well. No thanks on that. And we'll change those sleep settings. We'll go to power. I'll type edit right there. Edit power plan is all I need. Change this to 3 hours. Since we're not running on batteries, putting the computer to sleep doesn't make any sense. Does not make sense. Leave the computer on and simply have it shut the monitor down after a set amount of time. Never have the computer go to sleep unless it's a laptop or a tablet and you want to save your batteries, because that just introduces all kinds of support problems. I can't count the number of support requests that are related to the sleep setting. And my universal fix for it is just disable sleep. Well, that's not fixing it. Well, it's not really intended to be used on systems that don't have batteries. The whole reason it was created was to extend battery life. The fact that you could, save electricity is a secondary effect. And if you're using sleep mode and it's working, great, leave it alone. The problem is when it doesn't work, it can take hours to figure out why, and it's not worth it. Not worth the support call. Joe says, my next desktop PC will be a small footprint box like the Intel Nook. Well, speaking of that, let me go back over to camera one. The folks over at Minis Forum have sent us a Christmas box. That's how you know you're considered one of their partners. We've been getting like a Christmas box from Be Quiet every year. I haven't received anything from them yet. And we received a Christmas box from Geekom. Well, this just came in. This is the Minis Forum Christmas box. And in this, it's just their way of saying thank you for, working with us this last year. And here's to our, I hate to say it's a partnership, but here's to our partnership continuing on in the future. Inside, we have a holiday card, a little pop-up card here. What's interesting is they didn't sign it or address it in any way, so I can regift it. That was Mara's idea. She says, hey, we could send that out. So here is the holiday card. Is that a Love Pop card? Is it actually, it doesn't say Love Pop on it, does it? You can get these really cool pop-up cards from lovepop.com. So yeah. Well, now I guess I can't send that to Buster. He'll know I regifted it. Also in the box, they've given us an 83 key, the MKB i83 RGB keyboard. It's a 3-mode mechanical keyboard as a gift. Also a wireless mouse that they're including as a gift. This is the Minis Forum MMA01, and this keyboard is the Minis Forum. Yeah, these are Minis Forum branded keyboard and mice. And then finally, the last thing in the box here is a mouse pad that looks like a snowman with a Santa hat on, and then it's got a little wrist rest right there. Oh, and they've given me these decals, which I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do with these. They're nice looking decals, though. So that's a nice little holiday gift from the folks over at Minis Forum. I absolutely was not expecting that. So when DHL, this stuff ships from China, DHL said there was a package arriving, and I'm like, I'm not expecting anything. And usually when I get a package from DHL, it's a mini PC. Because almost universally, all those mini PCs are coming from China. So I get this box, and I'm looking at the size of this box, and I'm like, that must be one big mini PC, So I was absolutely delighted and tickled. Anytime a company does that, and as a Gen Xer, I used to see my father come home from work in the 70s and the 80s with holiday gifts all the time. And I thought, I can't wait till I can go to work and I can be appreciated by my employer. Oh, That was not in the cards for my generation. So it's pretty rare to see companies do this nowadays. And so because it's rare, that makes it that much more special to me that, you know, they thought of me. That was nice. Somebody thought of me. I was important enough to send it to. Thank you to the folks at Minis Forum for their thoughtfulness. And let me go back over here and see how we're doing. Oh, I think I hit the keyboard by mistake there. That's why that happened. All right, we'll let that install. And let's take a look here in the chat and see what you're saying. Ski Man said those are Go Faster stickers. Yeah, they are. Anubis says, was that here where I saw the keyboard that basically had an LCD screen on it? Yeah, we showed that keyboard off here. I don't know if we ever heard back from them. Do you remember the keyboard that has the LCD screen? Of course you don't. She has a terrible memory. Do you remember my name? I'll tell you in a second. Okay, it's going to take me longer than a second to find this. I thought I posted on Twitter about it on x.com, and I'm just looking through my past posts. But I don't think it would have been this far back. Yeah, I talked about it. I didn't specifically do a video on it. Yeah, well, it would be in the video notes. There would be a link to it. So if the keywords were done correctly, a search would find it, but a search isn't finding it, and therefore it must not have been added to the keywords. No, it's a keyboard that's on like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or something. I think it is the Flux keyboard. Yeah, because it reminded me of Flux capacitor. Let's go to screen. So it is Kickstarter. Let's go to screen capture right there. Still got the screen up. Switch over to Chrome. Screen capture. Right click, properties. Chrome. Yeah, the Flux keyboard. So there needs to be a video on this overview. The switches, you can adjust the sensitivity of the switches, which is an interesting idea. Okay, so we go back to Edge and type in Flux keyboard. There should be a video on YouTube here. Here we go. That's a full LCD screen behind the keys, and the letters on the keys themselves are all digital. It's a little screen that you can change the language or the symbol, the font, including emoticons, etc., emojis. And then it's got little add-on pieces that you can put like multimedia buttons onto the key. $500? 450? Yeah, but you're getting a screen and a keyboard. And I believe it's fully compatible with Mac and PC, isn't it? Does it say it's compatible with Mac?
Oh, I didn't. You want me to reach out to them?
Yeah, reach out to them. See if they'll send us one for review. There you go. Asked and answered. Just like that. Oh, and we're ready for a reboot here. So let's go to restart. And well, that's rebooting. We'll go to camera one. There we go. All right, well, we're just about at 2 hours of the show today. It's 10 minutes to 3 here in Phoenix, Arizona. Anubis said, that's expensive. You should do a giveaway. Sure. You buy it and I'll give it away. What's that? Any software. Okay, whatever that means. Nick Caffrey says that Flux keyboard would drive me nuts. Joe says $500 for a keyboard versus a new car. I'll take the keyboard. I don't even think $500 would be a down payment on a new car. What world you're living in. Jim KJ3N has a YouTube channel, and he's just posted a link to his channel. And if you enjoy my videos, I think you'll like Jim's as well. Be sure and check out his YouTube channel and give him a subscribe and a thumbs up. Show him a little love. He's a member of the community, and his content is pretty good, if I don't say so myself. Also, be sure and check out Planet Cryos. He's got a YouTube channel as well. And our good friend Doug Betts over at Live Windows Training with Doug Betts. He's on like 6 days a week early in the morning, so we don't conflict with our shows. And he does a lot of interaction. Mostly that's all he does is interaction with the guests that are joining him, the audience that's joining him. So be sure and check that out as well if you enjoy more unscripted, real content from real working computer technician. Doug Betts is the man. And then, of course, with Jim KJ3N and Planet Cryos, be sure to check out their videos. It's a variety of content as each of us are attracted and drawn to certain types of technology. And I'm sure that many of you will also enjoy that subject matter. Oh, Jim just recently did the OBS cam, or the OBS bot cam, which is a camera that follows you around, I guess. I don't move all that much, just from one side of the table to the other. But I could see if I was outdoors or filming some kind of sporting event, especially if I was in the sporting event and I wanted to film it, you could set the camera off to the sidelines and let it film the game as you're playing in the game. But as long as I have Camera Girl, she's my OBS bot. George Ferrugia says, Acronis, thank you for all your help. Have a Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. Hopefully we're going to have a special with Acronis coming up here very soon. I'm happy to say I'm in talks with Acronis right now, and hopefully we can, well, not hopefully, I have no doubt we're going to work on an agreement so we can get you guys a special deal with the Acronis software and bring Bowden back on so we can talk more about and demonstrate more with Acronis. So that'll be coming up likely in the new year. Also, we'll have to bring our friends back from RoboForm, talk about what's going on with them. They've had a few updates lately. I don't know what's changed in the updates. I honestly don't pay attention. When I see an update available, I grab it though, because it's password stuff. It's critical. Most updates are critical. I don't postpone putting updates in. I just got an update today for OBS. I also got an update today for Chrome. And I also got an update today for the NZXT cam software. It's like, holy cow, everything's updating all of a sudden. And that's on top of the updates we just got on Tuesday for Windows Patch Tuesday. Updates, updates, updates. 3D Everything with a $20 super chat says, thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, 3D Everything. Thanks for supporting the channel. Michael Lavelle contributes, sorry, he's renewed membership now for 16 months. He says, hello, it's good to see you all. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for being a member. All right, let me switch back over and see how we're doing here on. Yeah, and it may be delayed. You know, anytime you do these Kickstarters, sort of like Elon Musk showed the Cybertruck 4 years ago, and it just shipped November 30th. So that's to be expected.
Yeah. I'll also reach out.
Yeah, reach out. All right, let me see what we're doing here. Stream. I like to get rid of these little cartoon things down here. So that's under search permissions right there. Scroll down to the last little on-off thing and switch it off. Then we'll go to Windows Update. Try all. And while that's happening, let me check my phone. I have not checked my phone this entire broadcast, so I don't know if I'm missing anything. Didn't you just have a birthday last year? Peter Laycock sends a $200 Amazon gift card and sends a picture of his brother and his wife, Susan. Oh, there we go. Well, now I get to see what his brother looked like. Very nice. Buster, thank you for your continued generosity. And again, we're all here for you, my friend. Okay, so that gets us caught up. We're just waiting on this update here, which is taking forever. Oh, there it goes, completed. Now let's check for updates again. And we'll go here to advanced options just to see if there's any other. No, 0 available. So we're doing good there. I would grab my utilities flash drive and run Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer and install VLC. I don't need to run Prime 95 or do the temperature monitoring because this is the exact same hardware as what we've built before, and we know this configuration. It's not like it varies from one machine to the next. If we get everything exactly the same, then we're going to get exactly the same performance. That's how that works. So let's grab VLC. And let's grab Carey's Windows 10 optimizer. And yes, this does work on Windows 11. I'm not exactly sure how much it helps. It certainly doesn't hurt anything. Finishes that. Take my flash drive out, done with it. And then I'll run the optimizer. Hit apply. It automatically detects what needs to be optimized or what it recommends optimized on your system. So if you try and run it again, it'll actually tell you you're already optimized. It's an intelligent optimizer. It runs very quickly, and then we'll just restart for those settings to take effect. Richard Palmentier said 2024 is going to be my 3rd year with Carey's channel. Well, right on. Well, we're glad to have you here. Time flies, doesn't it? Samuel Kowalski says, I missed his super chat. Uh-oh, let me go back. Oh, there it is. Samuel Kowalski with a $2 super chat says, keep up the great video and work. Thank you, Samuel. Sorry I missed that. It just was the timing. What's that? I mentioned that one already. Yeah, from 3D Everything. All right, now the last thing I do would be to go to Storage Sense or Storage Settings, then go to Storage Sense. Make sure that's turned on. My optimizer turns it on and sets it to run every month, but I want to run it manually and get rid of all of the temp files that Windows Update has left behind. And there's still more temp files, and I want to get rid of those by just typing in disk cleanup. Go to cleanup system files. And by the way, all of you watching would benefit from following along with this. There's nothing this is going to remove that you miss. Check all the boxes. This is all just junk files, all of it. That's going to free up quite a bit of space here. Actually, that's not much space at all. It usually reads gigabyte. Does that say megabyte? Well, that's because it's a brand new system and we don't have that much junk on it. But if you buy a brand new computer, like from Best Buy or whatever, a new laptop, manufacturers don't do this. So quite often, day one, when you turn that computer on for the very first time, you're sitting on literally gigabytes of used hard drive space. That's just trash that the manufacturer didn't take out before sending you the system, selling you the system. I'll typically go into the apps area and remove some apps that that my customers generally don't want. So things like media player, VLC replaces that. It's way better. Let's get rid of it. Don't need 2 of them. Microsoft News. Everybody wants to give you the news. Microsoft OneDrive I'll leave on there. If it was mine, I would take it off, but some customers do use that. Movies and TV is just another media player. We don't need that. VLC will take care of that. Microsoft Office is a trial version trying to get you to buy it. I uninstall that. And then this Outlook, again, another, I believe, trial version. I haven't played with it, but pretty sure that's going to be a trial. I'm sure if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. Let's see. this Xbox stuff can come out. You notice the other Xbox stuff that used to be listed, there were at least one other Xbox item that would not let us uninstall. That doesn't even appear on the list anymore. So whether, losing my voice, so whether or not Microsoft took that out, or they simply have hidden it from the regular install area, since it cannot be uninstalled, it might have been creating unwanted support questions where people wanted to take it out. Whereas if they'd have never seen it, it would have never bothered them. All right, so that ties that up really nice. And then if you want to see our boot time, we can do a restart here. And then finally, I'll run Crystal Disk Mark to show you just how fast this little NVMe drive is. For 90 bucks, 1 terabyte, this thing screams. So here we are live, unscripted, in real time. You're going to see the real boot time here, what it really takes to get to the desktop from a restart. Just like that on our brand new build. And then I will put my flash drive back in there so I can copy the Crystal Disk Mark portable version over. And we'll run the entire test suite here. Take my flash drive out. All right, are you sitting down? I mean, for 90 bucks, we're going almost 7,000 megabytes per second on the read. That's crazy. That is about twice as fast as Gen 3. Captain Blinsky says he likes to install sysinternals right away. I disagree. Sysinternals is typically used for repair and diagnostic, and on a brand new system, there should be nothing that needs to be repaired. And that's a quick way you start messing around in the Windows internals on a brand new build to get yourself an unstable build. Most computer owners will never use system internals in their life. And it's a tool I only use when I'm trying to fix something that's a little more complex than your normal issue. So, but to each their own. If that works for you, enjoy it. But I wouldn't recommend other people do that. A brand new build should not need any maintenance or specialty system utilities. In fact, system utilities in general really aren't used anymore. These aren't the days of Windows XP. Hey, Mara, can you come here for a second? We have a visitor. Can I help you?
See this?
Meow. Apparently, it's cat feeding time. We have a stray cat in the neighborhood that apparently has adopted me. And I have told the cat that I am a dog person. The camera's not on, we're on the... I have told the cat I am a dog person, I'm not a cat person, and he doesn't believe me. And he just randomly shows up whenever he's hungry. So I had to buy some cat food. Yeah. This is the excitement over at Studio B.
Aw.
Just a scrapper of a kitty cat. And he's feral. He doesn't like you to touch him. And the write speed is nearly 5,000 megabytes per second on the write speed. Now we can get up to 7,000 on the write speed with Gen 4, but that'll require the more expensive Samsung 990 NVMe drive. So again, if we're trying to save money, the difference of the user experiencing 5,000 megabytes per second on the writes versus 7,000 on the writes is likely something the user will not be able to tell any difference of in normal use. unless they're doing something very write intensive or they're running benchmarks. But just like doing your whatever you guys use your computer for, all of you watching this video, most of you will not see any advantage going from 5,000 megabytes per second to 7,000. A couple of you will. But most of you will only see that on a benchmark. It won't be something where you, like if I sat you down in front of a computer and said you couldn't run any benchmarks, you could only run regular practical software. You could run whatever software it is, but you tell me which one has the faster Gen 4 drive and which one has the slower one. I think you'd be guessing. I don't think you could tell with confidence which was which. That's how similar they are. The difference of diminishing returns as we get higher and higher speeds results in milliseconds. It's very difficult for a human being to determine and measure milliseconds without some kind of tool to do that for you. So unless you're writing some massive file and you're noticing that that massive file copied over quicker, then my next question is, how many massive files do you have to justify paying the extra for that drive? Most people, when they're copying over massive files, you know, once the massive file's copied over, it's done, right? It's already there. Most people don't have a lot of them. And if they do have a lot of them, once they're copied over, they don't have any more to copy over. So unless there's a constant influx of more large files, that would be like video editing or even photography. Richard Palmentier said his new build is faster than any of his older computers. Well, I would hope so, Richard. All right, let's go back over to camera one. There's our final numbers on Crystal Dismark, in case you were curious. Are you feeding him in the house? Oh, okay. Normally fed outside. You still feed me outside. She likes the cat better than me. And Bull142 wants me to check my phone again. All right, we'll do that, and then we're going to wrap things up here. Lance Ripplinger says hello from cold Wyoming. Welcome in, Lance. Mark Gaines, joining us from Northern Ireland, sends a $25 Amazon gift card. He says, thank you for all you do. I just finished upgrading my RAM to 32 gig Corsair Vengeance 3200. Nice. Thank you for the Amazon gift card. And Bull142 sends a $20 Amazon gift card. Well, thank you, Bull142, and of course, Mark Gaines, and of course, Buster and Paul O'Brien. Thank you guys for continuing to support the channel. I'm in the market now to find a unique computer case for the AMD build I've got coming up using that live mixer board. I'm looking for a case that is a bit loud, a bit graffiti-like. So if you know of an unusual case, please link to it or tell me the make and model of it in the description, in the comments rather, below this video. Right now we're live, so there's no comment section, but as soon as this live is over, there will be a comment section. And if you think there's some outrageous case that live mixer board, remember it's the live mixer AMD board. It's orange and red. It's pretty loud. If you think you know of a case that's going to look good in, let me know so I can check them out. And I want to thank everybody who's given in Super Chat today. Once I bring the screen up here, Samuel Kowalski and 3D Everything. Thanks also go to Ron Makura, Nick Caffrey, Blackjack Yak 54, Colin Hunt, Craig Casabona, Planet Cryos, our friend Buster, Peter Laycock, Ben Laird, and Paul O'Brien. And for all of the renewed memberships, a shout out and thank you to Matthew Burden, Davis Parsons, Dustin Fuller, Dwayne Blackwelder, Tim Davern, John Swisher, Jason Willis, Michael Lavelle. Thanks, you guys, for renewing your membership. Your memberships help keep me free and independent from the big corporations that want to dictate what I'm going to tell you or what I'm going to show you to pay the bills. So if I can get the bills paid without relying on them, then we can make the content we want to make, when we want to make it, how we want to make it, and say what we want to say with no concern of repercussion or boycotts or any of this other nonsense. And your contributions, big or small, they add up, and your memberships go a long way to helping keep that independence. And that when we do partner with somebody like Acronis, that we do so because they're offering you guys a deal, right? It's not just about what I can make for myself. Anything I make for myself generally goes right back into the channel for more content. All this hardware that you've seen today has all been purchased with the income that comes from the YouTube channel and will hopefully be sold to a client. When that happens, then the money that's generated from the sale of the system will go into buying more parts to make more videos, to build more systems, to sell to more clients, and around the wheel goes. If you see anything on the channel that you're interested in purchasing and you're in the United States, reach out to me using the email address in the About section of the YouTube channel. And let us know when you're on the market for, and we'll see if we have anything that can accommodate your needs and budget. Certainly happy to send systems to viewers in the USA. Do keep in mind, support can be very difficult if you're located hundreds or thousands of miles away from me. There's only so much we can do over the phone, and I'm happy to try. But what I tell people is consider me the system builder, not the system seller. When you buy a system from me, probably the best attitude to have is that you've bought all the parts yourself and you just paid me to assemble it. And then if you have any problems, of course, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. But some problems require me having the system in front of me to see it so I can determine what's wrong. If that's the case, you could always mail it back, but it's about $100 plus $125 to mail a system. Then I have to send the system back once it's repaired. It takes about a week to go from one end of the country to the other, like if you're on the East Coast. And then I need a week to fix it. So you're going to be gone without a system for 3 weeks. You'd be much better finding somebody locally to help you. And most systems I sell don't need repair anyway, at least not, unless you're getting in there and messing around with it. If you leave it the way I built it, chances are you're not going to have any problems with it unless there's damage in shipping, which can happen, but it doesn't happen that often. So there are some caveats. Obviously, I encourage you to build your own system. That's why I make the videos. I don't make the videos to sell systems. I make the videos to show you how easy it is to build your own. And of course, if you have any problems when you're building it, you're always welcome to come in during any of our live videos and ask the chat for help. We have a lot of very nice, knowledgeable people in our chat room, which would be more than happy to help you solve any particular issues you're having. With that, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you to Mara, the camera girl. Great close-up work today. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching. We have some exciting new content coming up here very soon, as I mentioned, with the new AMD build coming up, as well as a couple of more mini PCs from Geekcom. And I'm expecting some other mini PCs that look really cool. And I don't know if they perform as good as they look, but they look really cool. So I'm excited to get my hands on those as well. Again, our thoughts and prayers out to our good friend Peter, who suffered the loss of his brother recently. Certainly, we're thinking about you, and we're here for you. For everyone else, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday and enjoy your weekend. I'll see you all very, very soon. Members only videos on every Monday, 1 o'clock Arizona time. These are just videos for members who pay the $9.99 a month. It's a much smaller turnout. They're much more intimate and informal. And it gives you some idea what's going on behind the scenes, some of the prep work we're doing for upcoming videos, and just leisurely discussion. And then sometimes I do some repair work and like system builds, but not too often. Those videos are just members only videos forever. The general public will never be able to watch them. if you decide to become a member, you can go back and watch all the members only videos you've missed. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.